Hi, I'm Sonia. Welcome back to my channel, Sonia on Being 60. In today's video and in the next few videos to come, I'm going to start talking about running. I'm going to talk about how one starts running, how do you safely increase your distance while running. Want to talk about injuries, talk like dealing with injuries, talk about how to dress for the cooler weather, and also how to dress when it's really hot outside. What are some of the things that we can do with that? In today's video, I want to talk more to the new runners, people who are, if you're just wanting to get into running, see what it's all about. I have some great tips for you, and I'll get into those a little bit later in the video. Before I continue, though, I just do want to say that any advice or information I give comes from my own experience. I'm not a medical professional, so if you are wanting to start to run and you've never done it before, I would really suggest that you kind of get the okay from your doctor that that you are fit to ensure that you're physically able to start a program. I've been running for 25 odd years now, and I'm planning to run a marathon on May 2nd, so in about 16 weeks. So while I'm addressing this video more for the new runner, I also imagine there are some of you who are experienced at running, and perhaps you want to take yourself from, let's say, being able to run a 5K to a 10K, or maybe, from the half marathon to a marathon. As with all things running, I am a firm believer in incrementally moving yourself forward in terms of your distance. If you've never run before and say, okay, well, 16 weeks, I'm going to run a marathon, I strongly advise against that. And I advise against it because it takes a lot of effort and training to run a marathon. And I really think that anyone wanting to get to that distance should be running for at least a year, should have, built up to the half marathon distance. Because to me, the key thing, the thing that's most important about wanting to increase and wanting to go farther is that we do that incrementally, that we don't say, okay, I've never run in my life, I'm going to go out and run 5K or 10K. And maybe you could do it, but you may also cause your body some harm. So I am, like I said, a firm believer in maybe a slower approach, but I'm all about taking that first step and just incrementally, one step at a time, going from there. So I think too that if you're a brand new runner, I hope you'll want to embark on the journey of learning to run, and starting off with my plan for those folks learning to run. It's first week is like you're going to run for a minute, walk for a minute, and might do that 10 times. It might sound like it's very easy, and it could very well be very easy, but this is all about slowly but surely easing your body into doing an activity that it hasn't done in the past. Perhaps too, you have run in the past and you want to maybe set a new goal for yourself. So in that case, what I would recommend is that you go out for a run. Go out and see, can you run for 30 minutes nonstop, for example? And if you can do that, then I think then you could train for a 10K. I'm going to be linking in the description below sample workouts for a learn to run 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon. And these are all, I would say, more at the beginner type level. And certainly there's tons and tons of training plans out on the internet. So if you don't happen to like what I've post what I'm posting, go take a look at what's out there. There's tons and tons of them. But like I said, I've tried to keep all of the plans very doable, very realistic. I also feel that for the shorter distances that you should be running 3 times a week. I think that's really important. I don't think you should run back to back. I think it's important to give your body a rest, especially as you're embarking on something new. When I started running, and like I mentioned, I started running 25 years ago. The reason I started running was I needed something that I could do maybe like at lunchtime so that I wasn't taking time away from the kids. My kids were like 1 and 3 at the time. And I still had a few pounds that I wanted to lose as a result of the pregnancies. More importantly, I just wanted to feel fit again. I hadn't done any exercise for a few years, and so I was feeling pretty unfit. I wasn't sure if running was going to be my thing because I had tried running once in my 20s, and I really couldn't understand what people loved about it. I'd see people running in the wintertime, and I think there was something wrong with them, because like, why would you want to go outside and run when it's like minus 20 degrees or something like that? Kind of thought they were crazy. And like I said, I tried it once and I didn't quite understand why people liked it. Nonetheless, 2 of my friends at work were wanting to get in shape as well, and they had run in the past, but were just also kind of starting to get back into it. So twisted my arm and I reluctantly agreed. I was like the biggest whiner. I remember it was the fall and I'm like, it's gonna get cold, we're gonna freeze, we can't do this all winter. Boy, I really was putting up every little kind of obstacle I could think of to not run. At any rate, I started with them and we could not run around the block. And we didn't really have a training plan. We didn't know what we were doing, other than we said we were going Monday, Wednesday, Friday at lunchtime. And we would kind of do this run walk. We'd run kind of as much as we could, which was usually 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'd walk about the same. And slowly but surely, we started to get better until one day we actually ran 5 kilometers. And it was just like, wow, look at what we just accomplished. And that probably took us 2 to 3 months to be able to do that. And when I look back on those days, I'm like, yeah, we may not have known it, but we were smart in the approach that we took to running. We did it every second day. We were consistent, and we ramped up slowly. None of us got injured. None of us had any issues. And so once when we got to running that 5K, I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. Let's train for a 10K race now. And my friends were like, yeah, let's do that. Like, the race, I think, was 3 or 4 months away. So we knew we had enough time to get up from the 5K up to the 10K. And we did that. And we had a great time and we thoroughly enjoyed it. I then continued running. I wanted to see if I could do a half marathon, and my friends were just happy to stay with the 10K, which was fine. Everybody kind of finds what works for them when it comes to running. I thought, it's a logical next step is the 10 to the half, and I gave myself a year. But during that year, I ran home one day from work and realized I'd run 13 kilometers, and it was pretty easy, and I thought, I know, for a full year, just to ramp up to do another 8 kilometers, no, I think I'll bypass the half marathon and just go run a marathon, which is what I did. But I gave myself enough time to do that, so which is really important. I'd already been running for almost a year, and I just figured, I had good experience under my belt, and I had another year in which to be able to run that distance. And what I did as well was I joined the local running room here, and because I didn't know how to run a marathon. I didn't know how to train for that. I didn't know what kind of distances to do. So I found the support of a group and learning about running a marathon, that distance, was very helpful. Now, that's not to say that for those of you wanting to start out, that's where you're going to go. I'm a firm believer that when it comes to running, if you want to learn how to run, you can do it. I know running's not for everybody, and not everybody is able to run. They might, people do have some issues like with knees or hips or arthritis that just kind of prevents them from being able to run. And then it's like, you just find another sport where that your body allows you, that your body would allow you to do. But for those of you that can run, running is wonderful. Running is a terrific sport. I mean, it's relatively inexpensive. You need running shoes, and you need some, kind of technical clothing when you're first starting out. So that kind of leads me, segue into my top tips if you're just starting out with running. And that, number one, is that you have good shoes. To me, having the right shoes to wear is the most important thing that you can do when it comes to running. If you have a neutral foot, you want to make sure that you're in a neutral shoe. If you pronate, you want to make sure that you have a shoe that's going to give you a bit more stability. If you're running in the trails, then you're going to want shoes that provide a little bit more grip for you for those trails, and you'll want the trail running shoes. Because they do provide a bit more stability. You feel like you're a little closer to the ground. So yeah, it's all going to depend on where you're running and what it is that you're going to be doing. So the other thing that's really important is hydration. Especially if you're out running for more than, I would say, an hour. If you're out for an hour, hydration is important. I mean, you should always be hydrated. Even if you're out for like a 5-kilometer run or a half an hour, especially in the warmer weather, you should always bring a little bottle of water to drink. Certainly going into the longer distances, or if you're out for more than an hour, then you're going to maybe want to start introducing some electrolytes, especially when we're sweating a lot. Because if we're sweating and we're getting rid of the sodium, potassium, all the electrolytes in our bodies, we need to replace that. And we should not be replacing it with just plain water. We should also be trying to replace some of our electrolytes back into our system. Another thing that's important, new runners, experienced runners, we should all kind of activate, I guess is the word I would use, activate our arms and our legs, do some strides, do some squats, do some arm circles, just something to start opening up your legs and your arms and kind of get you ready for the run that's coming up. Then after your run, I suggest stretching. I'm not always the best at it, but I do try to stretch as often as possible, because again, we want to make sure that our muscles don't get too tight, that they, that we've just been put them through a lot. We just want to make sure that we can stretch them out and that we don't cause any harm to ourselves. I think too, what's important is if you're just starting out running, or even if you've been running for a while and you're looking to increase your distance, is to find someone to run with. It keeps you motivated. Certainly at the beginning, when this might be new for you, it keeps you motivated, keeps you accountable, because as I had mentioned earlier, it's really important to be consistent when you're learning to run. Even when you're when you are running consistently and you are going for further and further distances, it's still really important to be consistent in your runs and not just maybe run once a week. You want to be able to be running at least 3 times a week, and it doesn't always have to be like, or it should be like not back-to-back runs. There are times where I know myself, I'll have a run on a Friday and a Saturday, or a Saturday and a Sunday, and it's all part of my training plan. I think what's really important as well is, certainly doesn't matter if we're just starting out or if we're a seasoned runner, is we have to listen to our bodies. Because if running is something new, or you're running new distances, your body can get tired, and you want to pay attention. If your body's tired, take an extra day of rest. There's nothing wrong with that. And certainly if you feel like there might be something wrong, if you've hurt something, you want to be paying attention to your body. And if there is something that you feel is not, you have a twinge, for example, that hasn't gone away after a few days of, rest and icing and that kind of thing, then you might want to go and see, a physiotherapist, a massage therapist, a chiropractor, your family doctor. You might want to, go get it checked out to make sure it's something serious. So these are my few tips for today. I would love it if any of you wanted to come and join in on some of the runs that I'm doing. Give me your feedback below if this is helpful, or if there are topics that you'd like to be talking about. I'm more than happy to do that. I do have quite a bit of experience running and in teaching people especially to learn to run, taking someone from 0 to being able to run up to 5 kilometers. And I love it. I love it. If you're brand new at this and you think you can't do it, you can. If there's nothing wrong with your body, okay? And I'm just saying, like, that nothing physically stopping you from doing this, and that you kind of have the okay to start exercising. The approach I take, as I mentioned earlier, is very incremental. It's slow, and maybe it's going to seem really too slow, but it's geared to get you to the 5K feeling great, not being injured, and being able to run that distance without stopping. And you can do it. I've seen it happen time and time again with folks that I've gotten out to come and join me on, like, a Learn to Run program or something like that. So let's get out there and run, and have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week's video. Bye for now.